All right, today we're jumping into a challenge that just about every remote worker feels deep in their bones, the global clock. We're going to break down how you can actually master working across different time zones and maybe even turn what feels like a constant headache into a huge advantage for your team. So, does this sound familiar? You know, the late night meetings, the super early morning check-ins, that constant, nagging mental math of, wait, what time is it for them again? If you feel like your single biggest challenge with remote work is just time, well, you're in the right place and you're definitely not alone.
So let's actually put a name to this thing, because we're not just talking about a little inconvenience here. We're talking about a very real, tangible barrier that gets in the way of working together effectively.
And there's a term for it, temporal distance. It's basically the academic way of saying the time difference between you and your colleagues. But it's so much more than just hours on a clock, right? It's really a gap in your shared experience, a gap in your availability. And how big that gap is, well, it matters a lot.
Just how much does it matter? Check this out. Research shows that for every single hour of temporal distance you add between team members, real-time communication drops by 11%. Let that sink in. For every hour, that's a massive hit to all those spontaneous, creative conversations that solve problems.
And you know, a drop in communication, that's really just the tip of the iceberg. The hidden costs of ignoring temporal distance run way deeper, and they start to affect people and the entire culture of a company.
This gets us to something called time shifting. It's that thing we all do when we bend our own schedules to fit someone else's. It's a direct path to burnout because it just eats away at your personal time. But look at that last point, because this is really important. Studies show that women who are also caregivers are way less likely to communicate outside of normal work hours. Now, if a company's culture rewards being always on, you can see how this creates some serious inequities in pay and promotions. All of a sudden, this isn't just a logistics problem, is it? It's a people problem.
So what's the fix? How do we actually solve this? Well, the answer isn't about finding that one magical meeting time that works for everybody. It's about a much bigger, more fundamental shift in how we think about communication itself.
And the answer is to become async first. Asynchronous communication is literally anything that doesn't happen in real time. Think emails, shared docs, video messages. But here's the magic phrase: no expectation of an immediate response. That little bit of intentional delay, that's the secret sauce. That's what gives everyone their time and their focus back.
Okay, but how do you decide when to go async versus hopping on a call? It's actually pretty simple. Just ask yourself, what's my goal here? Is it conveyance? Am I just trying to get a piece of information from my brain to yours? Async is perfect for that. But if the goal is convergence, where we need to come together to make a decision or brainstorm, that's when you might need a real-time, synchronous meeting.
And this little matrix here breaks it down even more. You save synchronous, real-time communication for the heavy hitters, things like conflict resolution or a really tricky brainstorming session. Asynchronous communication, that becomes your default, your workhorse for like 80% of what you do every day. Status updates, feedback, all the routine stuff. When you start using this strategically, you literally reclaim your calendar and your sanity.
Okay, so the theory makes sense. But how do you actually get a whole team, or even a whole company, to work this way? You can't just wish it into existence. You need some clear frameworks.
Honestly, it all starts with this one simple, incredibly powerful question. Before you even think about opening your calendar, just stop and ask, does this really have to be a meeting? So often the answer is no. A well-written document or a quick screen recording is usually way more effective and a whole lot more respectful of everyone's time.
Now, for those times when a meeting really is the only way, just follow these 4 simple rules. First, rotate those inconvenient meeting times so it's not always the same person waking up at 5 a.m. Second, make attendance optional for people in really tough time zones. And third and fourth are absolutely crucial. Always send an agenda and always share detailed notes or a recording afterward. The goal here is to decouple information from attendance. You shouldn't have to be there to know what happened.
Now, if you want to get really advanced, there's a strategy called the follow the sun model. This is where work is seamlessly handed off from a team in one time zone to the next, basically creating a 24/7 workflow. For things like customer support or software development, this can be a game changer. We're talking about slashing project times and costs. Now, it takes some serious coordination, but it's the ultimate example of turning time zones from a weakness into an incredible strength.
Okay, let's zoom in a bit and bring this down to the individual level.
because having great company policies is one thing, but you also need your own personal strategies to protect your time and, not go crazy.
Think of this as your personal defense kit against time zone chaos. Be super clear about your working hours. Block off focus time and holidays on your calendar so everyone can see it. And please, for the love of all that is good, always specify the time zone when you suggest a time. Let's meet at 10 a.m. means nothing to a global team. Let's meet at 10 a.m. EST is clear, it's actionable, and it prevents a world of pain.
And of course, having the right tech makes all of this so much easier. A simple time zone visualizer like World Time Buddy takes all the guesswork out of scheduling. A good project management tool like Asana gets everything out of messy email chains and into one central place. And an async video tool like Loom, it lets you explain something complicated with all the nuance of your voice without ever having to schedule a meeting.
And look, if you're thinking this all sounds nice in theory, just look at a company like GitLab. They are the absolute masters of working asynchronously. They have a handbook-first culture, which means everything, and I mean everything, is documented and accessible to the public. This almost completely eliminates the need for those quick syncing meetings, because the answer you're looking for is almost always written down somewhere, available to anyone at any time.
So we'll leave you with this question to chew on. What if this is about more than just scheduling meetings? What if this is really about decoupling the idea of productivity from the idea of physical presence? Because when we do that, when we start measuring people by their output instead of by the hours they're online, we don't just solve the time zone problem. We open the door to building ways of working that are more resilient, more fair, and, maybe just a little more human.